Hi, and welcome to this lecture on set operations. So over the next few minutes, we're going to kind of cover what the book has to offer with regards to this. We're going to talk about camera department duties, grip and electric, the production process, how to properly slate, set etiquette, and set safety. So what you're looking at right here, this is an organization chart of a motion picture crew. Specifically, we're going to be concerned with the director of photography and the departments that report to the director of photography. So, as a matter of fact, the director of photography is actually the head of the camera department, but they also supervise the grip department and the electric department. So you can see how this is arranged. The specific roles that we're going to really dive into today are first AC, second AC, camera operator. We're also going to talk about grip and electric in very generic terms today. So I'm going to give you an idea of what these departments do, but we're not going to go into detail about which role does what. Okay, so let's talk about the director. So the director, in terms of cinematography, the director has several responsibilities. So first, he or she, they need to decide which shots are needed to properly convey the scene. They think about where the camera will be placed, how much of the scene that the camera sees. So does the camera see everything, or is it all encompassed in a very tight shot? They think about and discuss camera movement. They have an idea of the look and the feel of the scene. The director or someone from the director's team is responsible for creating a shot list. And probably one of the most important things, the director has to ensure that everything for the scene has been shot before they wrap. If that is not the case, if they happen to miss one shot that is critically important for the scene, well then a reshoot is in order. And that can be very expensive. And sometimes it's not even possible if the actors or the crew are not available to do it. So let's talk about the director of photography now. So the director of photography, they report directly to the director. And their job is to deliver the look and feel that the director requires for the story. Okay, so to do that, they have to ensure that the director and the editor have all the footage or all the coverage that is editorially usable to create the story. So this is thinking about camera angles, shot sizes, and the proper takes and good versions of the proper take, good takes of the proper scene to tell the story. So they also supervise, coordinate, and communicate with the camera department and the grip and electric departments. So the DP, really any continuity errors stops with them. So as any visual continuity errors that might be caused through camera or placement of actors, the DP needs to be aware of this and they need to catch it. So they're responsible for the look of the scene. They direct the lighting and the light modifiers that are used. So the DP typically picks the lens that goes on the camera. So lenses, as you're going to find out, can vary widely in the way they render a scene. So depending on the lens you choose, you can create a different look and feel. So matching the right lens to the look and feel is a very important decision. That's one that rests with the DP. So they also talk about the direction of camera movement and the operation of it. So they're going to make sure that this again has a lot to do with the look and the feel of the scene. and they're going to make sure that if they are not operating the camera directly, that the camera operator is aware of the aesthetic that they're going for, and any camera movement they supervise the execution of that. And lastly, we talk about the art and the science of cinematography. So a lot of these up to now have been focused on the art of cinematography. Well, the technical photographic specifications, that all has to do with the science of cinematography. So they are looking at the technical requirements to achieve the aesthetic qualities that the director wants, and they are specifying those. So when you get right down to it, they are visually interpreting the script. So they help the director develop the look and feel. And really by doing that, there's two things here. So one is they have to read the script. And moreover, they have to understand what the script is really about. This is not the plot. This is the moral of the story, what the subtext is of the script. That's what it's really getting at. So a director of photography that can do this will have a deeper understanding of the story and can often pair visuals that will help tell that story. And also they have to understand the logistical requirements too. There is always a budget to be maintained, and they have to fit this look and feel into the existing budget they have to work with. So working with the director, they're going to be part of the job, especially before they begin, is getting on the same page. So the DP needs to be proactive and communicate with the director about the desired look and feel of the film. Watching films together is a great way to do this, so they can have a common visual reference. So some of the tools of the director of photography. A light meter. So there are two types of light meters that you'll be using in this class. One is called an incident meter, and the other is a reflectance meter. We'll get into that later. A laser pointer. This is just helpful for pointing where things need to be done. Instead of having to walk all the way across set and showing someone or pointing with your finger, you can put a laser pointer exactly on the spot where you want a light or like a modifier to be set. A director's viewfinder can help the director of photography visualize what a scene is going to look like through a particular shot size or camera angle, and with a certain lens as well before a change is actually made to the cinema camera. And lastly, a smartphone. So it's sometimes they will be taking pictures on set for either continuity or for to convey something on a future scene. And also there's certain applications too. One is a sun finder app, and it's very helpful to show you how to predict the location of the sun, so you can set your talent and crew appropriately to get the shot that you need. So moving down from there, we're going to talk about camera operators. So on a smaller budget shoot, the director and the camera operator might be the same person. There are some famous directors of photography that insist on still operating, Roger Deakins being one of them. So what does the camera operator do? So they have to pan and tilt, and if there's a zoom lens, they're responsible for zooming it as well. They also have to coordinate with the dolly grip for any moves that might be happening. They have to frame the shot. The director calls for a certain shot, and they have to frame it to be aesthetically appropriate. They need to make camera moves that are smooth and not jerky. They have a definitive beginning and a definitive end. The movement in between those the beginning and end is typically very well defined and smooth. And they look for any problems that might ruin the shot. So this could be anything from a boom that's hanging down in the shot, or reflections, or a bump in the dolly track, and so on. So they have to look out for that, and they have to let the appropriate person know if that was visible in the shot. A lot of times the director will not catch something like that, they're really focused on what the actors are doing. And if there's a bump in a dolly track, say, then they just might not even register at the time that it happens. It's up to the camera operator to say something, to say, listen, that last take had a bump in it. Let's look at it real quick to make sure that it's okay. So moving on from there, the first assistant camera, also known as the focus puller. So what does the first assistant camera do? As you can see by this list, they have a lot of responsibility. This is a very technically demanding position. So let's get into this. So with the help of the second AC, they'll be loading media into the camera. They basically have to ensure that all technical aspects of the camera are working properly. So they are ensuring that the camera is operating as it should, and all the technical settings have been dialed in to what the director of photography has specified. So these include setting the lens, the aperture of the lens, which on a cinema camera is called a t-stop. You may have heard of the term f-stop before, and at this point in your career, I hope that you have. So t-stops are very similar. We'll cover what t-stops are later in the semester. They will set the frame rate and shutter angle. Shutter angle is another way of measuring shutter speed. They measure the focus, and they do this in conjunction with the second ACs. And sometimes this focus is set by eye. A lot of times, though, it's technically measured just to make sure that they have the precise focus they need at any given point in time. And in some cases, they are also operating the zoom control if the camera operator is not able to do that function. Okay, so in addition to all that, they have to build cameras. They have to move cameras to the next setup. And usually the other assistant cameras will help, and sometimes the grips. You're going to see that cinema cameras can be extremely big and bulky and heavy. So they need to guard the camera against the damage, or malfunction. So what does that mean? So here's one of the main rules. When you set up a camera on a tripod, you should never be more than 1 or 2 arm lengths away from this camera at any given time while it's on a tripod. And the main reason is that you don't want it to fall over. Cinema cameras are very expensive, and you're putting thousands of dollars, and in some cases on the high end, hundreds of thousands of dollars on a pedestal, 3 to 5 feet in the air, that someone could come by and accidentally bump it. So you need to make sure that you are near the camera. Okay, so again, making sure the camera is set up to all specifications. And so basically, we're going to make a distinction between the first assistant camera and the second assistant camera. Anything that needs to be manipulated or set or adjusted on the camera. So if it physically touches the camera, that is in the domain of the first assistant camera. This is a picture of a camera assistant front box. This box is designed to set on the front of a tripod, and what it does, it has all of the tools that are necessary for an assistant camera to do their job. So they have, as you can see here, a lens blower to blow off dust from the lens. They have a pair of reading glasses. Very important as you get older, they have some lens cleaning solution right here. I'm sure there will be a lens cleaning cloth somewhere over there. They have a set of Allen wrenches and various tools they may need throughout the course of the day. And it looks like they also have a tweaking screwdriver and possibly a flashlight as well. The cup of coffee there is not part of the setup. That's optional. There's also a space right here. If you can see, there's a space right here, and that's where the slate lives. It's not in there right now, but the slate is put there in between takes. So now, okay, we'll move on to second assistant camera. What do they do? Okay, so here's a basic process. The DP calls for a lens change. And then the first AC will, in conjunction with the second AC, they will change the lens together. So typically the second AC will go get the lens. The first AC is removing the lens. Once they remove the lens, they check the gate to make sure that there's no dust or debris. They then inspect the lens to make sure there's no fingerprints or dust or debris on the lens that's going onto the camera. They'll place it onto the camera. Well, actually, so the lens, the first AC and the second AC basically hand off lenses to one another. And so the first AC puts the lens on while the second AC goes and returns the unused lens back to the lens case, and then they lock the lens case. There's a really good reason also that this is a two-person job, and that is, especially at the higher level, lenses are expensive. It is not uncommon for one single prime lens to cost upwards of $25,000. So you have to protect lenses at all costs. Okay, so other things the second AC does. They are also referred to as the clapper or the clapper loader. So basically, they're responsible for slating each shot. They are also, the loading aspect of this is they are responsible for taking digital media from the camera over to the what's called the DIT, or digital imaging technician, and then getting media from clean media, or media that's ready to be formatted, from the DIT and bringing it back to the camera and loading it into the camera. So they're responsible for logging the camera shots for the day, so they maintain a log of all shots. They measure focus, and they do this with the help of the first AC. So they basically hold up a measuring tape to the actors or stand-in eyes. They spike the marks for the actors. So what does that mean? That they take tape, physically place it on the ground where the actors are supposed to go, so they can hit the same mark every single time. And like I said before, with working with the first AC, anything that needs to be adjusted that's in the realm of something to do with the camera, but it's off the camera, that is the responsibility of the second AC. And here you can see a second AC measuring focus with the help of the first AC. So it's a physical measuring tape like you would use for construction. Sometimes they're cloth and they're on a reel, but steel measuring tapes work just fine as well. And so they're placing it very close to the actor's eyes so they can get a measured focus. Okay, so we've gone through the camera department. Let's now talk about the gaffer and the grip. So in terms of this course, we're going to talk about the gaffer and grip in very general terms again. So the gaffer is responsible for setting up lights. They run power to the lights, and they adjust lighting instruments. Those are three primary responsibilities. I know that doesn't sound like a lot. Each of these could be 20 bullet points because there's a lot of detail that goes into these. So in broad strokes, this is what the gaffer does. You can see that this gentleman down here, he is running electrical distribution from generators to a set. And it is quite the undertaking this guy is doing. I do not envy him in the least doing this job. The grip, what they do complements the gaffer in that they have to set and adjust any off-light modifiers. So we're going to talk about what are on-light and off-light modifiers. So any off-light modifiers, a modifier that is not touching the light. These are flags, nets, silks. That is in the purview of the grip. Any type of rigging that has to be done on set, anything that has to be built on set, that's the grip's responsibility. Grips also are responsible for the setup and the operation of dollies. So as you can see on screen here, they are pushing what is called a Fisher dolly, and that is a grip that's pushing the dolly. And the key grip, which is the head of the grip department, is also the chief safety officer on set. So let's shift gears and let's talk about the shot list. As I stated before, the shot list is the responsibility of the director or someone in the director's team. Usually it's the second AC, I'm sorry, I misspoke. It's the second AD, or the second assistant director, who is responsible for compiling the shot list. These can be a logistical nightmare because you have to figure out a lot of different things that have to be recorded, and these are typically dictated by the shooting script. So you can look at this document and you can see a lot of information. So we have a number of shots here. We have a shot size, if it's it's denoted if it's interior or exterior. We see if there's a camera move or if it's not, and if there is a camera move, what type of camera move it is. Any audio that's to be included, the subjects that are in the shot, and a description of the shot. So think of this as the game plan for the day. This lets you know beyond a shadow of a doubt if you have everything that you need to shoot, if you've actually accomplished it or not. So you have a physical list that you work off of. Typically, what happens is once a shot list is made, a schedule will be made based upon that. So sometimes these might be shot out of order depending on where, like what the weather is doing at any given time, or what specific locations are available at certain times. So there's lots of logistics that have to be considered when you are compiling the schedule from the shot list. But the shot list is a bird's eye view of what is to be recorded during the day, and it gives you a lot of information on what and how that is recorded. Okay, so from there, let's talk about the production process. So the production process, it's a four-step process, and this is pretty much at this point, it's a standardized process throughout the film industry, and that is block, light, rehearse, shoot. So there is one step that is like a 0.5 right here, and that's called the rough-in. So the rough-in is all about bringing the gear to the set and getting it ready to go. But from there, block, light, rehearse, shoot comes into play. So the first part of this is the blocking. So the blocking is what happens there is the director is working with the actors, and they are figuring out where the actors are going to be in the scene. So while this is happening, the camera crew and the grip and electric crew are standing by and they're watching this process. And they're getting an idea of where they're going to place their lights, where exactly they're going to place their camera to get the look and feel, again, that the director is asking for. And also if you look here, I love this drawing. This is a second AC right here, and he or she is putting spike marks down for the actors. So once the blocking has been done, the assistant director will hand over control of the set to the director of photography. And once that happens, lighting begins. So along with lighting, you see a camera right here. Camera is being set as well. So a big portion of what's done, though, is lighting. So it's important to know that you can't light air. You have to have someone standing on set. So this could be the actor. However, I'm going to go back one slide. Once blocking has been done, what the director does, or in this case the assistant director, is he puts the actors into makeup and costume. So the actors typically walk away at this point and are gone for about an hour getting into makeup and costume, allowing the camera, grip, and electric crew to do their job. So it's important to have a stand-in. So there are some aspects of a stand-in that you have to have. And that is, the stand-in typically needs to be the same height as the actor, the same hair color, the same complexion as the actor. They need to be wearing roughly the same outfit, and even we would say that they need to have the same eye socket depth. This is important because how you place the light on somebody's face can create shadows, and if it's somebody that has their skull is shaped considerably different than the actor, then a lot of the adjustments that are done during the lighting process will probably have to be redone once the actor steps in. So again, lighting takes place, the camera crew is setting the shot, getting everything ready to go, and at this point you could say that the camera crew is almost rehearsing a bit too. They're kind of seeing how this shot is going to take place. So the actual rehearsal begins once the actors are done with makeup. The set is turned back over to the director, and the director is working with the actors. So again, remember, the actors are in costume at this point. They're in makeup, and so time is of the essence because makeup doesn't last forever. It constantly needs retouching. Depending on the conditions, it may be very hot and actors start sweating. So they need to be able to do their scene as quickly as possible, and it's also just professional courtesy that you're ready to go. And it's time is money, so the more you can get shot in the day, the more efficient your budget is. So in this picture, you see the director working with the actors, and again, this whole time though, the camera crew and the grip and electric crew are watching this happen, and the camera crew is even like making, not actually rolling camera, but doing test shots, like say if there's a rack focus that needs to take place, or some sort of subtle adjustment or camera move that needs to take place. They're rehearsing this along with the actors when the actors are doing their rehearsal. Okay, from there the actual shoot happens, and so hopefully during this process, any technical bugs that might need to be worked out have been worked out before this process happens. So really the only thing that needs to be done is that the director works with the actor and they basically get the shot they need without having to worry about any of the camera or lighting. So I'm going to go back to the very beginning here. Block, light, rehearse, shoot. A good way to memorize this is just remember blurs. BLRS, blurs. If I were taking an exam sometime for this class, I'd want to know this process in order. Block, light, rehearse, shoot. Okay, let's now talk about the slate. So the slate does two main things. It provides information about each shot for the editor, and it also provides a visual audio sync point. A lot of times in filmmaking, the audio or the production audio is not recorded on the cinema camera. It is recorded on a separate device. This is called dual system sound. Modern cinema cameras typically have the ability to record some audio, and we record what's called a scratch track. So we just record non-production audio that we can use for reference to help us synchronize. Back in the day when they shot film, there was absolutely zero sound recorded on that film. So you had to have some way to synchronize the audio and video, and that was done through the slate. The slate also provides information. So we get the production name, the director DP, the roll, scene, and take. These are very important for the for the editor, so they can know what shot they are dealing with. When the editor goes through and begins to assemble the edit, they are looking at the camera log. They're looking at the scenes that have been circled that the director, or the takes that the director has circled and wants to use. So they have to identify these, and the way they do this is with the slate. They also denote if it's the date, if it's day or night, if it's an interior exterior shot, and whether it is synchronized sound or MOS. MOS means no sound. So here's the procedure, and it's very important that this is followed because there's an expectation that it will be done this way. And again, the idea is that the slate is, this procedure conveys the information it needs to convey. To start with, the slate needs to be placed in frame and held perfectly still. So if the slate is moving, it's blurry, most likely from motion blur, and the editor can't see read the slate basically. Another thing is that it's in focus. If it's possible to get close to the actor, usually focus is set on the actor. Then if you place it as close as you can to the actor, then the slate will probably be acceptably in focus to read. If not, the camera operator, or the first AC might have to rack focus to the slate and then re-rack focus back to the scene before actual photography begins. So the idea here is that the camera is rolling and that the slate is in place before the camera rolls. In modern cinema cameras, the very first frame the camera sees in the shot, it will make it the thumbnail for that file. So if the thumbnail is the slate that you can see in focus in the frame, it makes the editor's job extremely easy. They can go through and pick out the shots that they need. So the slate is in focus, it's perfectly still. All right. So once the camera is rolling and you hear the camera operator say set, at that point you call the scene take and number. So scene 1, take 2. You say the word marker because the editor is listening for the word marker, and they know the very next sound that they hear will be the clap of the slate. So they listen for the word marker, and then they listen for the clap of the slate, and that's where they get their synchronization point. Wait a half second, and I'm going to tell you why in just a moment. Wait a half second before you remove the slate from the shot, and then get out of there as quick as you can to make room for the scene to play. So there's alternative slating methods, and one is called an MOS slate. And I'm going to go back one frame, and you'll see that this picture right here is actually an MOS slate. And best practice here is, if you're not recording sound, is to put your fingers in between the sticks. These are called the sticks of the slate. And that will let the editor know that this slate is not going to be clapped, that this is an MOS shot. And so the other one is a tail slate. So if for some reason you're not able to slate at the beginning of the scene, and there are reasons for this sometimes, you have to slate at the end of the scene, and sometimes it's a mistake. The camera's rolling and the scene's going, and they realize at the end that there's no slate. you do a tail slate. And what basically is you do the same process as before, and you have to do this while the camera is still rolling. If you stop the camera before you do a tail slate, then it cannot be used for synchronization. So it has to be in the same recording as the actual take. You turn the slate upside down and then slate as you normally would, and that is a universal sign for this is a tail slate. Don't do this. This is why I said wait a half second before you remove the slate from the screen. I've seen this many times. People starting to learn to slate, they will try to be as quick as they can. Scene 1, take 27, and marker, click, and they're basically saying that the whole time, and the slate is constantly moving. So you put the slate in, you hold it perfectly still, you clap the slate, wait half a second, and then take it out. This is almost unusable. For one, the visual reference of the sticks is when the slate is when the sticks come together, and if it's blurred, it's really hard to see when those sticks come together. Okay, so when the sticks come together and you hear the clap in the audio, that is the sync point, and it's very hard to do in this instance. So please don't do this. You will not make any friends with any editor by giving them slates like this. Okay, we're going to shift gears again. We're going to talk about set etiquette. So when you're on a professional set, you have to realize that the director of photography, and again, this is a cinematography class. We're assuming that you are on the camera crew. The director of photography is under a lot of pressure, and they're thinking about a lot of different things all at once. And if someone breaks your concentration, sometimes it's very hard to get back to where you need to be to think about what you need to think about, especially if you're thinking about multiple things at once. So this is an unwritten rule, but you don't talk to the DP. Okay, the people that do talk to the DP are the director, the first AD, and the first assistant camera, the gaffer and the grip, and they know when to talk to the DP. So you let the DP do their job and don't talk to them. So, more set etiquette. Be focused on your job and your job alone. Okay, so it is important that you stay in your lane. Don't try to do anyone else's job. You will be asked to leave almost immediately if you start doing that. Show respect for everyone and be professional. No off-color jokes. It's a professional working environment. Even if the content that you're recording is unprofessional, the behind the scenes is professional. Okay? Absolute silence during takes. Turn your cell phone off. Put it in airplane mode or silence it. Don't give advice on how to shoot the scene. Everyone probably has their own opinion, but you are hired to do a job. Do your job. Don't offer your opinion unless it's something you're responsible for. So the only people, again, that talk to the DP are the director, the operator, the first AC, the AD, and sometimes the DIT as well. This is an unwritten rule, but it's something you should respect. Is that only the director of photography and the gaffer use a light meter on set. If you're a second AC and you start pulling out a light meter after they've already metered the scene, what you're really saying is that you don't trust their judgment. So don't do that. And then that could get other people thinking, well, what's wrong with this? So only the DP and the gaffer use a light meter on set. Okay. This is really important as well. Only the DP, the operator, the first and second AC touch the camera. These cameras are very expensive and they are very complex to set up. And so there's no hands-on show and tell. Don't touch the camera. If the set is hot, meaning that it has been placed, everything has been placed, props are set, lighting is set, everything's ready to go, don't touch anything. And probably, I don't know if it's most importantly, all of these are important, but don't talk to the actors. Actors are very focused on what they are doing, and idle chit chat can sometimes take them out of their zone, so just don't talk to them. You're not being rude, you're being professional. Okay, set safety. Only do the job on set that you've been hired and trained to do. Do not run on the set. Do not stand on the top or the second rung of a ladder, or for that matter, under a ladder. Never leave anything on a ladder. Be careful around ladders, that accidents happen. The name and phone number of the nearest hospital need to be on the call sheet. Only operate equipment you know how to, and that's part of your job. Wear gloves and safe shoes. That means no open-toed shoes. And in some respects, if you are a grip that does a lot of rigging, you might want to think about steel-toe shoes. And don't touch anything electrical unless you are an electrician or a gaffer. And just remember, the key grip is also the chief safety officer on set, with a sub-responsibility of the stunt coordinator who is responsible for stunt safety. And that is all for this lecture. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you in class.